Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is World Mental Health Day and I'll be talking about my top 3 tips on how to take care of your mental health and prioritize your mental wellness. Mental health is very important, as important as your physical health, if not more important. Mental health is very stigmatized and it's often taboo in many cultures, and it's often not talked about in the media and society in general. I think it is changing for sure, especially during this day. We should be amplifying voices that are advocating for mental health, for more mental health resources in our workplace, in our schools, in every single part of society, and should be putting it on a higher value than we are right now. I'm by no means a mental health expert, but I do have many habits that I've formed over the years to be able to prioritize my mental health, and there are certain actions I'll take to ensure that my mental wellness is optimized. So my first tip is to check in with yourself often. In order to take action on something, you need to know about it first. So awareness is the first step. A lot of times when we're just overwhelmed with the busy lives that we lead, we often forget to check in with ourselves. We check in with other people, we check in with our families, but we don't check in with ourselves. That often means that we might be overextending ourselves and causing us to be drained and burnt out. For me, when I'm feeling off, feeling overly stressed, feeling frazzled, I like to kind of run through a mental checklist. So here are some things that I would put on that checklist. So firstly, movement. Have I moved today? I think a lot of times we sit at our desks and keep working, keep grinding, but a little bit of movement can go a long way. To go to grab some water or grab some tea, or just to stretch a little bit in your seat, or just any type of movement, any workouts, and your exercises will definitely energize you and help you think through problems without actually focusing really hard to think about them, because your brain is still processing the information that you're taking in. The second thing would be water. Have I drank enough water today? I think that really affects my energy levels and my general well-being. Food. Have I had a nutritious meal? Have I just been eating junk food? I will check in with myself and make sure I feed myself nutritious food in order to have enough energy to tackle the day. Fourth thing would be sleep. When I don't get enough sleep, it definitely affects my entire day, and so if I'm not able to take a nap, I'll still try to prioritize sleeping in earlier that night. I think sleep is very underrated. I think quality sleep is really important. You should prioritize quality sleep, because if you don't rest, your body builds up sleep debt and it doesn't function normally. So it really does affect your mood and your emotions and how irritable you are, how you're able to think through problems. So sleep is super important. A final thing would be connection. So sometimes I would gauge how much connection I'm getting every day. So if I'm getting too little, I might feel really drained, but if I get too much, I might also be drained. So I think a good medium is helpful to be able to first talk through your problems with your friends, or just have a distraction and think about other things, and they can be your support system to be able to handle any difficulties you might be having or struggles you might be having. So connection is really important, especially during this pandemic. It's really difficult to be connected with physically with people, but obviously online you can chat to people or FaceTime people, and that can create the connection you need. I think prioritizing those moments to just call a friend or just to interact with people on social media, that might be able to fuel your energy levels and make you feel connected and less alone. I think the last thing is that when you check in with yourself, you need to be kind to yourself. Make sure that when you're checking in, you're just acknowledging that, oh, this is difficult, this might be something that you need to work on, but it's not an inherent flaw in your personality. You might have certain mental health conditions, and those things are not something you can change immediately and not something you can snap out of. We need to definitely get rid of that myth that the mental health condition is actually caused by the person, because it is not. There's many causes to it, but it's never the person's fault that they have a mental health condition. It's the imbalance of chemicals in the brain. It's the thinking patterns that they've developed over time. It is the social environment that they're in. It could be a variety of factors that are causing mental health conditions, and so it's never the person's fault. Yeah, so check in regularly to be able to be aware of the issues you might be having, you might not even realize, so you can actually take action. Second tip is to actually feel all the emotions that you might be feeling, whether it's good or bad. Emotions are not inherently good or bad. It's just that in society we've actually kind of labeled those good and bad emotions, such as like happy is good or angry is bad. I think all emotions are valid, and you have to remind yourself that that's the case. If we view emotions as a bad sign, then we'll try to avoid them, but in avoiding them we actually create a bigger problem, and it will manifest itself into many pent-up emotions. And so ideally you'll be actually feeling those emotions deeply and fully, and you're actually not numbing yourself. It's definitely difficult to do, and it's a slow reprogramming if you are not used to that. But for me, like, I've really found it important to express those emotions and kind of label those emotions, and for me it's talking to a friend that really helps, or if not, I'll just journal it and say, oh, this is why I felt angry. I felt angry because of this, and this trigger might be due to this cause. I just sort of like work through the emotions and actually feel them. It will eventually pass, and then I'll move on. And I think a healthy way of actually facing your emotions is important, and important to cultivate so that it doesn't grow into something bigger. If you are a type of person who would pent up their emotions, definitely consider therapy or to support groups, or generally just journaling. I think that also really helps. Notice any patterns that you normally fall into when you're in a tough spot, or you're having a particularly bad flare-up or a bad episode with your mental health condition. So definitely writing it down or talking about it will really help you figure out the best solution. Also, you're not your emotions. Your emotions are just a reaction to the stimuli out there. Just because you have an emotion doesn't mean you will always feel that emotion for this particular situation. You always have a choice on how to view it. Your perception of the situation is what counts. Third and final tip for me is to build a strong support system. And it doesn't have to be a huge group of people. It just could be just a few people in your life that you can turn to whenever you're going through it. I used to think that the best way is to deal with it on my own, but I've realized that I don't normally have the best judgment when it comes to my own problems, and so having an objective third party who cares about you and can actually talk you through a certain crisis, or talk you through a problem you might have, is super helpful. If you don't have those people around you, definitely look into therapy, look into counseling. There's a lot of apps out there that provide services if you're not able to physically go to those places. You can join a support group for people dealing with similar issues. I would definitely encourage you to seek psychological professional help if you need it. If you are going through a crisis, use the emergency hotlines because those are there for your support. If you suspect that you might have a mental health condition, or you have a family member or friend who you might think that has a mental health condition, definitely encourage them to seek professional help. You don't have to live with mental illness forever. It can be treated. You can also learn how to cope with it better and figure out many strategies to be able to deal with your symptoms, or you can turn to medication that could also alleviate symptoms. No one has to struggle through that, and no one has to get to a point of crisis until they need to seek professional help. You can seek professional help in no matter your circumstance. I'm gonna leave some mental health resources down below, and it'll be maybe Hong Kong specific and also global. I think it's super important to be sharing these resources and trying to make mental health treatment more accessible and more affordable. I think it's just important to speak about these issues because there's so many people who are struggling and have no access to treatment and no access to affordable healthcare. This is why I'm kind of making this video and talking about my tips. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave some mental health tips if you have any. Asking for help is never a sign of weakness. It's actually a strength. It shows a lot of courage that you're speaking out and you're seeking help. These are things that you probably can't do alone and shouldn't have to do alone. And so never view it as a weakness and try to push yourself to be able to seek help, seek professional help, lean on those around you. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in my next one.